First Unitarian, we looked at the month of November and said, what would be a good theme for November? And we realized that it was resilience, because we were going to need it either way. So late on Saturday evening, my phone rang with an unknown number. It was really late at night, and it wasn't a number that I knew, so I was tempted to ignore it. But something told me to answer. It was Rabbi Lori, the rabbi of the Reconstructionist Jewish congregation who shares space with us. She was calling to say that there was a desire among many Madison area Jewish congregations and organizations to hold a vigil the next night on Sunday evening after the hate-filled violence at Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. The problem was that no one felt safe holding a vigil in a synagogue, and was there any way we could hold one at First Unitarian? My immediate answer was yes. So on Sunday evening, somewhere between 800 and 1,000 people gathered in our atrium auditorium, commons, crossing in hallways and doorways, sitting on chairs on the floor, standing for the hour-long vigil. We had no idea the space could hold so many people and hold so much love and support. Rabbi Lori shared these words: "Our hearts are broken, our hearts are raging. We feel fragile, vulnerable, and scared. We come together tonight to be in community, to comfort each other, to mourn the dead, and to pray for the living. We come together because we need each other." Many of my colleagues, she said, have deep connections to the Tree of Life Synagogue, as well as to Dor Hadash, the Reconstructionist synagogue that shares space with them. One of them lost a dear friend yesterday, killed while he was praying. Some of us were in synagogue when we learned of the news. The Torah portion we were reading was Vayera. We read the story of Lot, an immigrant who had moved to Sodom and integrated into this new society. He had been welcoming strangers into his home. Rabbinic tradition says that the real sin of the people who lived there was that they hated strangers. They hated anyone who was different. What's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, they would say. They had no sense of community. Rabbi Lori continued to say that we know that Robert Bowers also hated immigrants. He hated that Jewish communities had been actively welcoming immigrants and refugees. He targeted a community that was active in this work. He pulled the trigger because he saw Jews as a threat to his way of life, to his vision of a nation that would serve above all white Christians. Anti-Semitism, she said, is rising in this country, and white supremacy is the greatest threat to Jewish safety. It is tempting to shut our doors, to turn away, to retreat to the privacy of our homes or to the comfort of our own people. But this is the way of Sodom, not the way of Abraham, Lot's uncle, who was known for his hospitality, welcoming all who passed his tent. We must step across over racial, ethnic, and religious lines in a real way, in a way that matters. We must fight real and persistent racism, Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism. We must closely examine our own prejudices and deal with them. The only way forward is to be in true solidarity with one another, being allies for each other and showing up for each other. The only way forward is to cultivate deep, loving community. I share her words with you today because I find within them something of the resilience Jane Hirschfield referenced when she said, "More and more I have come to admire resilience, not the simple resilience of a pillow, but rather the sinuous tenacity of a tree. Finding the light newly blocked on one side, turning in another." What I love about Rabbi Lori's call to action is that it is one of turning toward one another. And in that turning, I find a great teaching on resilience. We are living in interesting times. These acts of violence are increasing, 3 last week alone, and we may be feeling like those sunken balls at the bottom of the bowl, worn down, worn out. The world is just too impermanent and too imperfect right about now, and we have no idea which way to turn. How do we find resilience in the midst of all of this here and now and the unknown that is yet to come? The psychologist Edith Grothberg, in her book Resilience for Today, defined resilience as the human capacity to deal with, overcome, learn from, or even be transformed by the inevitable adversities of life. What is interesting about her definition is that it points to the unique impact of resilience. If we become the most resilient people we can be, new positive realities and perspectives arise and flourish in the most surprising of ways. Amid life's stress and suffering, maybe even because of it, we can enhance our own ability to bounce back, perhaps even finding new meaning in our lives, becoming more compassionate, more aware, more connected. As I was thinking about resilience, I remembered my sister's favorite toy as we were growing up in the 70s, the Weebles. Do you remember the Weebles? Inside each roly-poly egg shape was a weight at the bottom center. So when the Weeble was tipped either way, that bottom weight lift and gravity caused the toy to return to its upright position. It wobbles a bit before coming to a stop, which led to the popular catchphrase, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. Can we be like the Weebles? What are the tools that help you find that gravity at your center? What tools do you have that help you feel that sense of groundedness, that help you return to the upright position? What restores you, recharges you? Time in nature, time in solitude, time with others, time in quiet. The elders of the Hopi Nation tell us, here is a river now flowing very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid, who will try to hold on to the shore. They are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, and keep our heads above water. And I say, see who is there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth and our journey come to a halt. So I'm kind of wondering what our lives would look like if we posted that reading in our classrooms and our offices and our homes. I personally am putting a sign on my office door that says, before you enter, take nothing personally, least of all yourself. It's going to be a little experiment. I'll let you know in the spring how it goes. Loss, failure, pain, they all occur in this life, and how we respond is a choice. We can allow them to stop us in our tracks, blame ourselves or others, taking it personally, allowing it to all fall apart, or we can face each day, come what may, remembering the last line of the Hopi elders, for we are the ones we have been waiting for. In an article called How to Bounce Back from Failure, The 7 Habits of Highly Resilient People, Carolyn Gregor notes these are the qualities that bring resiliency into our lives. 1, people who are resilient experience both positive and negative emotions. 2, they are realistically optimistic. 3, they reject rejection, because rejection steals joy. They don't become prisoners of their own thoughts, remembering to not believe everything they think. 4, they build strong support systems. 5, they notice and appreciate the little positive things. They seek out opportunities for growth and learning. And finally, they are endlessly grateful. As you listen to this list, you may have heard qualities that come naturally to you, and qualities that would be so challenging that they make you pause and wonder if you really could add them into your life. It turns out that cultivating resiliency has a lot to do with beliefs and habits of the mind and the willingness to open ourselves to examining our own beliefs, experiences, and emotions, be they positive or negative. As Unitarian Universalists, we place a high value on our own personal experience as a primary source of our faith. We see our own stories of joy and sorrow, and we use them to help us better understand ourselves and the world. It is through our own experiences that we are open to the source of life. All experience, painful or wonderful, all of this holds the potential to teach us and open us to even more. We also learn from the experiences and the stories of others. One such story that touched my heart was of a physician working in Somalia during a devastating famine. During the height of the starvation, he was approached by an interviewer from a radio station in the United States who asked him the following question: "Doctor, how can you stand this? How can you stand all of this carnage? The old are dropping like flies. The young are dying in numbers faster than you can bury them. How can you stand this and go on?" You could hear the pain in his voice. The physician stopped, turned to the interviewer, and said, "When you watch this horror on television, you're overwhelmed by it, aren't you?" When the reporter nodded, the physician went on, "Well, we here in country feel the same, if not more pain than all of you. But there is a difference." The interviewer asked in an incredulous voice, "What could possibly be different?" To which the physician softly responded, "You can't lose hope as long as you are making friends." My hope, our hope, lies in the fact that we are here doing what we can, where we can, together. Resilient individuals hold deeply this belief that we can make the world a better place. Those who have weathered change recognize how essential our relationships and communities are to our own ability to survive. Here in our Unitarian Universalist communities, we hold a strong ethic of justice seeking and service, building a better world together in community. Last Sunday night, I witnessed a group of very resilient people. They could have stayed home, lit their candles, said their prayers, reflected on what they could individually do in the wake of such horror. Yet the first thing they did was reach out to their community and to those they knew would support and nurture them in a terrible time. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs wrote, "For though my faith is not yours and your faith is not mine, if we are each free to light our own flame, together we can banish some of the darkness of the world." I believe this is how we nurture resilience. We have no idea what is coming this week. No way of knowing what the world will look like when we awake on Wednesday morning. I am sure we will have a mix of positive and negative emotions swirling within each one of us. How we choose to respond is up to each of us. Resilience does have a lot to do with what is inside us, but it has even more to do with what is between us. The only way forward is to be in true solidarity with one another, being allies for each other and showing up for each other. The only way forward is to cultivate deep and loving community. I realized mine died.
Yeah.
Okay. So no matter how tired, how frightened, how worn down we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, welcome the stranger, celebrate what is worthy, do the work of justice and love. In this way, may we remember we are strong, we are connected. May we remember each day to act, so we may each be a little more whole. And we do have some time for conversation, so we might witness each other's stories and share with one another our own lessons.